No, I feel very introduced now. No, just I just wanted to say some previous things. Like first of all, English is not my mother tongue, so please bear with me. And if you don't understand something, or if I don't express myself clearly, then I'm sorry. I will do my best. Second, I would like to thank Full Poverty Research Network and ENACT for the support and for the webinar. And third of all, I will share my screen so that you can, so I can start. And we had the same problem before. Okay. Is it fine? Can you see it? Because I can. Marilyn, can.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay.
It's fine. Can you try to put it onto? There we go. Perfect.
Okay, then. As Marilyn was saying, this small project that I've been doing with the support with the Full Poverty Research Network is a part of the whole PhD that I'm doing in energy poverty. And the idea is to investigate how children energy poverty and how are they impacted by energy poverty in more of a, like, actually we have a really pretty rough context in at least in Europe, which is the area that I study, Europe, and in the Full Poverty Research Network grant Spain. We are living a pretty like rough context of prices rising and the just and energy transitions happening without knowing if they're going to be just or not, and with a hard push with like this concept of just transitions. And in this concept, we would like to investigate how children are considered in this just transition, how children are given like platforms to share their ideas and their concerns. And there has been like very like outstanding studies like this one from the Lancet trying to say that we need to put children in the center of the Sustainable Development Goals, and we need to understand that intervention on children have really long-term benefits, and that also happens with energy poverty policies and interventions. So we have like been doing at the beginning like some kind of literature review on how children are cited or are considered in energy poverty publications, like getting to know that they they can be relevant in facing energy transitions. And then the presence of children affects like how energy is used and energy behaviors and energy efficiency strategies in households. And so that we need, I mean, we need to include them in energy poverty policies and just transition policies. Then from that, we chose like our key research questions, and the ones that are affect more that this project I did with the Full Poverty Research Network are the first ones, that if children are affected by energy poverty in different ways, and how do they tell us these impacts, or how do they endure or experience energy poverty, which are their views, and if it's possible to collect and strengthen children's voices in this situation. I just wanted to, then the other two questions like are part of the broad PhD. I just wanted to share a little bit like our framework was like from an energy justice perspective and a recent perspective that has been developed by Grossman on energy poverty and dignity, that we think it's very adequate to the work that we're doing. We are focusing on lived experience here, and this trying to analyze public policies from a more comprehensive perspective, and this idea that we need to have a greater understanding on how energy poverty impacts on different members of the households, understand these inequalities within households to be able to provide like more adequate or more appropriate energy poverty policies. So this intersectional perspective. So before I started with the grant, with the more lived experience, I also participated in an article that has been published about how this association between energy poverty and poor physical and mental health in Barcelona, and with these outcomes, with this poor general health, poor mental health, asthma, and overweight. This is like data from the living conditions survey in Spain, and in the case of the city of Barcelona. And then we have also been working on an article that is now like we are in review process on how in a European level the living conditions survey tackles what does the data tells us about children in energy poverty, saying that single parent families are at more risk, which is a conclusion that it's also present in the literature, and that families with children have worse outcomes in arrears with utility bills. Then we also have done like this kind of survey, trying to get to know if there were like policies targeting children in energy poverty. We did the analysis of the national energy and climate plans for all the European Union countries plus the UK, and then some case studies identifying that there's still like a lack of children-centered policies and a lack of involvement in children in energy policies. And also there's a lot of like family-related social support policies that tend to protect more large families, when data tells us that single parents households, for example, are at a higher risk. So there needs to be like more consistency between policies and data. And then we try to we ask for the support to the Full Poverty Research Network to do this part of the research in which we try to collect children's voices and experiences, and based on the framework provided by Clark and Moss that said that with children, when we try to do like a qualitative investigation, we need to approach the problem from different issues for them to be able to express themselves in the different languages that they may feel comfortable with. For example, like drawing, role-playing, writing, or like playing with Playmobil. So we designed like different workshops, and we identify, like we worked with a charity here in Barcelona that works with children in energy poverty. And we were able to like do all these workshops with a group of children like aged from 6 to 8, which is quite a complicated age to be able to discuss concepts as poverty or energy poverty. And through these, through these several workshops, we try to understand which were their views on energy poverty and which were their views on how we should provide energy to families, on what was energy poverty and how energy poverty might impact them. At first, these workshops, we wanted to conduct them in La Cañada Real, which is an informal settlement outside Madrid, where I'm sure that you've heard something about it. I mean, where like there's like 4,000 people living without access to electricity since October 2020. But when we tried to approach the community in La Cañada Real to propose them the workshops, they were enduring a really, really bad time because of, we had like this heavy storm and there was like a lot of snow, and they felt like they had been fighting a lot for the energy access to get them back. And then they were in a very helpless like situation. They felt that administrations and academia and media had been like exploiting them at some point or tiring them out. So it was it was like we faced a lot of ethical boundaries there. So we decided to be patient and to try to conduct the workshops in other communities so that we didn't, because of all this ethical context that we felt was complicated and was like not our intention. So to conduct the workshops, we thought that we needed to be able to explain what energy poverty was to children. So one of the outputs that we did in collaboration with the Alliance Against Energy Poverty in this grant was this like children booklet or children's story that here I have like translated for the workshop, but it's in Spanish, and it's a story, and this story has been inspired with the testimonies that we have been seeing from children in La Cañada Real. And it's like a booklet that tries to explain how energy poverty impacts different like emotions in terms of loneliness or dignity or anxious or being worried. And and for us, it was like very useful to do like this storytelling with a group of children. So trying to tackle the energy poverty concept. And after all, after like some time, which when we were like patient and waiting for things to improve, things haven't improved in La Cañada Real. But then like a large group of children, like 80 children or so, like have provided like a lot of drawings and letters that they sent to the mayor in Madrid, and they also sent to the, like, I don't know how do you call it in English, like the three wise men, and they asking for their right to energy and sharing a bit how did they feel without energy. And then finally, we managed to do a really interesting like workshop with more like teenagers in La Cañada Real. They were aged from 13 to 17. So we changed the methodology. We thought that the previous methodology was more adapted like for young children. So with teenagers, what we did is like kind of a focus group where they were experts in their own lives instead of being like tutorized. And we are like now like building up a publication with all these letters that children wrote for the three wise men, and also the outputs of the workshops. And more or less, there's like a very, very strong feelings of dignity, of not belonging like to the society because of being left out of the society because they don't deserve like the access to energy, like a lot of impacts in educational outcomes, like not being able to go to school, like being cold, like not being able to study, and feeling like bullied or ashamed in school, like not sharing with schoolmates where did they come from or what did they do at home because they felt like being without light was something like not from this time, no, like something like that they felt completely that they repeated a lot in the workshop and in the letters, something that was like very hurtful, like saying like we're not animals. We don't know why are we treated like animals, and what we deserve life as any other child in Madrid. No? So, and now we're trying to put all this together to write a publication on this like children and teenagers experience, which is really, really very like rough. And I will end up here because I think that I overpassed my time, but that some recommendations came out from the study, like there's that this need to replicate and to deepen the impacts of energy poverty from the perspective of children, because all these mental or emotional impacts we feel that are still not well understood. There's very few projects involving children in energy poverty. So we also need to like develop like more protocols to ensure the access to energy services for children, because really the impacts of energy poverty on children might be lifelong. So we need to like cut them off earlier during their childhood. It's really interesting and it's really appropriate for policy making to get to know their own perspective, because then we get to know specifically which impacts specifically affect children, and then that in order like what we have like detected like from now, that a lot of coordination is needed between professionals and within institutions and within different actors that work with children in order to generate like more data and more knowledge on which children and how are they affected by energy poverty, in order to increase like detection and prevention. And I will leave it here. So thank you.
You're not over time at all. And it was a wonderful presentation, Irene. So don't feel good. And your English was great. So really, next time, don't apologize. Just go ahead and speak. But we do have a couple of questions for you. One is from Rodolfo Gomez. And he's just wondering if you can clarify the the statistics that you have, is it specifically children in energy poverty, or is it a bit of mix of energy poverty and poverty more broadly?
No, in fact, here I can see that I there's one of the, I just wanted to clarify that. So thank you for the question. I think that it's this one that that he's referring to. Here it's, we did, it's a survey, that a health survey that is done in that it's run in Barcelona like every 2 years. And in this survey, it's like, the health situation of children reported by their caregivers, their main caregivers. So that's children under 15, and it's not direct data from children, but from their caregivers, using like some questions that are validated for this kind of to get to know mental and physical health from children. So what we did was take like some of the energy poverty like questions, like the arrears and utility bills, but mostly we take the temperature one, like feeling like living in inadequate temperatures, and afterwards we correlated them with the other, with the more mental health and physical health indicators. So and we got these results. I hope this clarifies the question.
Great, thank you. And I think, Irene, you've had this really exceptional experience that most academics don't get to have, where you've sat down and interacted with these kids. And I'm presuming in some cases that was away from their parents or with their parents. I wonder if you can just say a couple things about what the kids did tell you, or how they began to open up.
It was like very different from the two kind of workshops. Like the workshops we did was with younger children, like from 6 to 8. It was at the beginning we like shared the storybook so that we clarified what we wanted to talk about, like energy poverty. Then they took the children booklet home to share it with their families. So if there was something, because it's a sensible subject, so we needed to have all the family on board and comfortable with the workshops. And the following day we did a very interesting like workshop with a Playmobil house, where we took off the house all the things that needed energy to function, so that we tried to think about how everything that we took off the house impacted on our daily life. And then then a lot of, I mean, young children are very like spontaneous, so they started to share, like some of them that they had like no light for a few days, or that at home it's difficult because it gets very cold and we don't have heating, and then we started to share all these kind of experiences they have had at home, and they were like very natural about it. It was like, I think that what was more like hurt, I don't know if the word is breaking, was like the workshop we did with teenagers, because they're like really very much aware of how this energy, I would say poverty, exclusion in this case, impacts their lives. So they were really very hurted in their own dignity as wanting to be normal teenagers and feeling like left out. And that was like a really, I don't know, I cannot find the word, but that was a really big experience in terms of getting to know these testimonies.
Okay, thanks. And Rachel Gouillet has asked a couple of questions about how the events were organized. And I think, maybe you can respond to her in the chat, but I think it would be interesting to have you say, she's asked, did you do several workshops and did they evolve over time? As you did them, was there things that you learned to do better or differently?
No, we did like 2 series of workshops for the moment, and then we're trying to like work on this article and the conclusion. So for them to be able to be replicated, we're working like with we did also some like very short publication in Catalan, like not an academic one, but with a methodology for other like organizations or charities, if they wanted to do these workshops with the children they're like following or their in their charities. But these workshops were like 6 workshops that were like 1 hour and a half each, because we included at the beginning a bit of a we got dressed and we did a bit of a party time so that we got to know each other. And the first 2 workshops were completely dedicated to know each other, and we just played. And like in the fourth in the following 4th ones, we started talking about energy poverty, because I mean, if children don't know you, they have like more trouble into talking to you. And we were accompanied by the teachers or the people in the charity that was that took care of the children, so that they felt more safe. They felt with someone they know, but they didn't participate like actively in the workshops. And now we are trying to see if we can replicate them.
Great. All right. I think we're going to end your time there. It's super interesting presentation and discussion. And there is a couple more, maybe just look in the chat once you're, or we'll come back to the Q&A at the end of the time. We're now up to 40 participants, and I'm really interested to see that we've got participants from Lithuania, Greece, Spain, France, the UK, and then Greece, Scotland, and Hong Kong and Brazil. So we're really reaching a global network today. We're going to move on to our second presenter. And as I said at the beginning, we will have a full Q&A at the end of all 4 presentations. So if you find something you still want to ask for Irene, just save it for later or pop it into the chat. And again, just a reminder that if you are tweeting during the webinar, please use the hashtag FPRN_insight.